Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining Diagnosis Investor webinar titled Turning Routine Eye Exams into Scalable Disease Detection Through AI. I'm Sid Hart, the director here at Leal Capital, and I'll be hosting Andre Laurent, the CEO of Diagnos. So we'll have some management remarks followed by a live question and answer session. Please drop questions into the chat at any time, and hopefully I'll be able to get to them by curating them and grouping them so we can cover the most common investor topics. Today's discussion may include forward-looking statements and estimates which involve risks and uncertainties. We won't comment on the short-term stock price movements, and we won't disclose non-public information. For additional detail, please refer to our public filings and press releases, including the disclaimer on your screen. So, what should investors listen for today? Three things investors typically underwrite in a company like Diagnos that are key to moving forward for this company is commercial traction. So are they going to have deployments that convert into recurring usage with optometrists? Regulatory execution. Those are clearing the gating items and timelines that Diagnosis have publicly addressed. And capital discipline. How Diagnos prioritizes spending and manages the balance sheet. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Andre to walk through Diagnosis' story and the commercial path ahead. Andre?
Hey, thank you, Siddharth, and really nice to be here today. So really what I want to explain today is what we do. So Diagnos is an AI company, and we specifically analyze imaging and the imaging in the back of your eye. So it's the retina. So we analyze retina images for optometrists worldwide. So that's our intended use of our solution. Why the optometrists and versus the medical field? Well, optometrists are experts in really looking at your eyes to start. They have the equipment, they have the staff, and they know how to do taking pictures from the back of your eyes. So it's very, very important that those images are well taken. So the optometrist knows how to do this. And really, an optometrist will see between 20 and 30 patients a day. So it's a repeatable process. We don't change, we don't disrupt the environment. We just are part of the environment, because when the picture from the fundus camera takes your picture, it's a flash that goes inside your eye and takes the picture back of your eye. Well, it's the same thing they do today. So we don't disrupt their existing processes, except that when that picture is taken, it is sent to our servers where our AI application will do the analysis and recommend any finding to the optometrist. For investors, the idea is how do we get the optometrist to work with Diagnos? Well, there is no solution right now that is deployed worldwide in terms of helping the optometrist make a better job at looking at these images, because when the disease starts, it's very difficult to see the start of any of the disease because the lesions are too small. That's where AI comes in and can reduce the time of searching for these different lesions that are on your retina. And these lesions are really important when you have, diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, glaucoma, and others. So it's very important that we do this for the optometrist. We also provide the optometrist with a full report that he can actually print after your visit and give to you. So if you do have disease, you can actually go home and have a look at it. And being a reminder, stick it on your fridge. And if you have to take vitamins or change your eating habits, well, you have the report right in front of you. So that's something that is never done up to now in the optometry world.
So thanks for the introduction, Andre. I mean, Diagnos has a really interesting history, right? It's taken you so many years to get to this point. Can you talk us a little bit about kind of where Diagnos started and how many patients you guys have seen with this technology and what it's taken to kind of get to this point?
Right. So just a little bit of history. So before, we used to work in the mining field, and we developed a platform to analyze very sophisticated data, imaging data that these companies use. And one day, by pure accident, we were in France looking at different algorithms, and we were at the University of Mines, and some kid barged in the meeting where we were and he was very happy because he got a grant from the French government to analyze retina images. And then we were very puzzled by that. And we came back to Montreal. We downloaded images of the retina, and we started looking at the effect that our platform had on these images. And it was really, really great because within a few days, our system was able to actually recognize a retina image and classify it. So we went off and we did a partnership with Novartis, and we went to about 14 different countries, and we were actually screening diabetics for Novartis. So we were getting paid to gather our data. So at the end of the day, we went to 14 different countries and we screened about 300,000 patients with Novartis. Today, we have more than 500,000 patients in our database. And the database really consists of different disease that we see on the retina. So we'll have, thousands of images on diabetic retinopathy, thousands of images on the hypertension module. Same thing with AMD, glaucoma, and so on. So we've done about 500,000 patients to actually train our software to recognize these lesions that are on your back of the eye.
And so all of this data that you have on all these patients, that's not some external data set, right? That is all owned by Diagnos.
Yes, because you can get data on the internet, and there's a lot of universities that will, give out free some of the data, but it's very limited in terms of quantity and all that. And second is that most of the time these images are done in a perfect setting, meaning you're in a perfect room, perfect lighting, perfect everything. We didn't want that. We wanted real live information that we did in the field. And sometimes it was in a parking lot under a tent. Sometimes it was in a corridor. Sometimes it was inside an optometry store, hospitals. So different types of setting. And this is really to address the quality of the image when the picture is taken. So we can work with sub-quality images. So we actually built a module, a software module, to increase the quality of the images that we take in. But we needed to get that information from different sources.
Thanks for that historical lesson. I mean, I think it's great that all of this data truly belongs to Diagnos, and you've had it from different demographics, from different countries and ethnicities. I mean, it really shows the durability of the platform. And so when you're thinking about kind of the impact this technology can have, right, can you spend a minute walking us through kind of where it fits into the patient journey, right? The optometry and optical retail workflows, and what is it about your guys' technology that makes it so that it's very easy to use, it's very scalable, and distribution is not hard?
I have to start with telling everybody that there's two types of AI today. There's one called autonomous AI. So this is where you send any kind of information and you get an output. So if you would send an image of a retina, then you would get a result, but you cannot modify the result. And the second one is what the FDA calls assisted AI. And that's where we are in terms of classification. Why did we do this? We started with the autonomous AI. It was very clear that most of the doctors and optometrists out there did not really like to be told what's happening in the image itself. And that's where we took a different turn and we went to the assisted AI environment, where we actually changed the platform to actually work with the optometrist or a specialist, could be a ophthalmologist or a retina specialist, where we actually provide them information, but they make the decision. Same as what they do today. An optometrist will look at the image, he makes the call. He might not have all the tools to actually do a fantastic job when the diseases are starting because they can't see it with their eyes. So by adding this tool to their workflow, it's a great opportunity for them not to miss anything. Second thing, like I said, we actually provide a report back to the optometrist or the ophthalmologist on the condition of the eye, left eye, right eye, so they can actually really work with the process if they don't agree with the AI platform, what it has given in terms of analysis, they can modify it, they can change it, they can add, they can do all kinds of things. But the neat thing about this is it is sustainable. Once the optometrist starts working with this tool, it's great. It saves them a lot of time. We do an analysis of an individual, both eyes, within 10 seconds. If the individual has microaneurysms, as an example, well, he or she has to count them. And that can take up to 5 to 10 minutes. In some cases, there's going to have a second opinion. So a second fellow, another optometrist or another ophthalmologist, has to do the count. And both of them have to come up with the same numbers. So by having our technology, we do these counts within milliseconds. So we save them a lot of time. And time is important because they can see more patients at the end of the day. So
it sounds like the optometrist that the patient is seeing actually has a team of optometrists, and it's not just him or her solo with this technology.
Yes, the market is very large, but the way it works, and people will recognize as anybody who has eyewear today, is when you go to an optometry store, well, they'll have anywhere between 1 and 8 optometrists working there, different time and different jobs, but they'll have a group of optometrists or ophthalmologists working in the store. So we really base on our approach on the optometrist. So a large store will have eight optometrists. For us, it's 8 optometrists we need to get onto our platform. So larger revenue on larger sites and smaller revenue on smaller sites, except that on the average per optometrist, it's pretty much the same.
That's fantastic. So thanks for that introduction. Now, you told me before we got on the call that you have a special guest that's here to join us. So I'll leave the introduction up to you.
Yes. Well, a lot of people are saying, we're a bunch of technical guys, IT guys, and it's true that we are, very sophisticated in terms of technology. And what we're missing is really the medical side. So I'd like to introduce you all this morning to Philippe Couillard. Philippe is a neurosurgeon, and Philippe has known Diagnos probably for the last 10 years, and he actually accepted to be our chairman. Philippe's background is very important for us. I mean, as a neurosurgeon, he actually was the lead of an orchestra of different types of specialists, including the eyes and including what the effect is on these diseases. So he was Minister of Health in Quebec for many years. He also became Prime Minister for the entire province for 4 years. So I'd like to welcome Philippe on the call, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about yourself, Philippe.
Sure. Merci, André. Thanks. Hello, everyone. A pleasure to be with you today. So yes, more than 20 years of medical practice in neurosurgery made me look at many times at the back of the eyes of patients with the old technology that we had, which was not really a technology. I think you've had this experience before, shining a light in front of your eyes, trying to see the back of it with variable degrees of success. And this is the way it was done traditionally until these wonderful tools came around, like the cameras and the AI technology that André was describing. Then in my experience as a health minister, as a government official, really took my attention to the value of large-scale screening, not only of people with symptoms, but populations in general, so you can diagnose problems before they become a big issue and refer them for treatment as soon as possible, which leads to better outcomes for the person and also better, more efficient healthcare and healthcare systems. So I saw it from many angles, if you want. My role now as a chair of the board, André, as you know, is I'm focusing on governance with my colleagues on the board and you management, and we have a very strong commitment on continuously improving governance in a very transparent, credible, and accountable way. So that's what we spend a lot of time doing while you guys are developing the technology and making it constantly better and recruiting patients and having these partnerships, which of course is making this company a big success.
So, Philippe, nice to meet you. Obviously, you're very experienced. You've been in the healthcare system for so long. What was it about Diagnos and their AI technology and the fact that they are looking to go into the optometry market that spoke to you as a clinician, as somebody that's kind of seen the healthcare system grow over the years? Talk to us a little bit about that.
As Andre indicated, I got to know Diagnos years and years ago. It's actually more than 10 years, Andre. It was around 2009, 2010. At that time, I was out of politics, my first stint in politics as health minister, and I was working with a private equity group, which brings some pertinence here because we were looking at good business models that could apply in the healthcare sector and be good targets for investments. At that time, Diagnos had been started, as Andre said, previously working on the mining sector, but it hadn't yet reached a level of technology that it has today. So it was still very much user dependent. All images had to be seen by an ophthalmologist, which added, difficulty and complexity to the process. After that, when I left politics the second time, Andre contacted me and showed me what he had accomplished, which is remarkable, frankly, in terms of the AI technology that he can use on the retinal imaging. And I immediately saw the value of this, first for the patients themselves, for the professionals, and also for the healthcare system. Now, what focus allows us to focus on the optometrist is that we have to choose the best contact points, which are the most scalable as possible. So as you know, you don't go every day to see an ophthalmologist, which is a very specialized physician, but many of us, all of us, will see each year an optometrist and 1 or 2 times during the year. So it's a huge population, it's a huge amount of contacts with patients, and that was the right way of introducing the technology. And as Andre said, professionals are very touchy about keeping control of the diagnosis and the process. So we are giving them, a homemade plan in front of them, and for the patient, it doesn't change anything. It's a few seconds of his examination or her examination, and it brings tremendous benefits. So I see it as a very good example. If we move beyond medicine and look at the broader sector of AI, that's very practical. It doesn't have all the controversies that surround the eye. Sometimes it's a pure imaging analysis and a very good application.
And as a physician, you probably, truly understand that retinal imaging, or, just looking at the eye, right? It's a gateway to earlier disease detection.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the use of AI within kind of this patient journey about going to the optometrist. It's a very easy way to integrate with existing optometrists without much disruption, right? Which is huge for adoption in the healthcare system. Physicians want less complexity in their daily workflow than more, right? And for a health system, having been in politics, from your perspective, what is the value of integrating this technology into kind of earlier disease detection at the optometrist's office?
A screening system is valuable, brings value, if it can reach many patients. The number of patients you reach is determining the quality of the screening program you put in place. And if you want to get the best sensitivity, the best performance of the system, the more patients you have, the better it will be. So that was the main impetus to the interest of the healthcare sector towards this. And Andre right now is working with a couple of our larger hospitals in Quebec to bring that in. I started already working with them. So to me, that was an obvious application of AI. And again, it's not loaded with controversy. There's nothing like a robot looking at you. It's a camera, the same camera that the optometrist has already. Takes the same images, and of course, Andre and his team treats the images to make it digestible, if we can say, as he described earlier.
Yeah, and as healthcare continues to get more complex and more expensive, right? This technology really is trying to make screening more efficient and allow for earlier identification and clearer triage, right? You don't want to catch the patient that's already got an HbA1c of 11 and they have multiple microaneurysms. You want to catch them a lot earlier so that you can do a lot more things for them. So now, go ahead.
A good example is, it's not the only condition that this technology can address. A very common one is diabetes. And one of the known complications of diabetes is retinal disease, which for many years is just there but doesn't give any symptoms. So you don't know that the patient has or doesn't have diabetic retinopathy And sometimes visual problems start and they go fast after that, they accelerate. So it's one of the leading causes of blindness now in North America and elsewhere, the diabetic complications in the retina. So that's also a very good example. If you want to tell people exactly what the value is in terms of numbers, then taking diabetes as an example, again, it's not the only condition that the system looks at. That's a great example to explain the value of the system and explain it to government as well. Because a lot of cost associated to delayed diagnosis and treatment, as you can imagine.
Thank you for that. So now switching gears, you obviously work very closely with Andre and the management team, but you also sit on the board, right? And how do you see the role of yourself and the rest of the board when it comes to thinking about Diagnos as a company? What are you holding the management team to? What are you expecting from them?
We expect them to develop milestones and report on milestones on a recurrent basis. And this is what's happening right now. Act on commercial traction. And I think Andre has spoken about that. Regulatory execution, which is critical, having the certifications that we need to work around the world, that is also something clearly important. And as in any company, financial discipline, capital discipline, and alignment with shareholders is obviously a concern of ours, a constant concern of ours.
And how's that been, in your opinion?
Well, it's good. And I'm impressed with the quality of the team. I would say, Sid, that having seen many of these companies in my various roles, it's rare that you will see a company that has accomplished so much development and result with not such a large team and very reasonable capital investment. I would not say minimal, but nothing is minimal, as you know, in medicine, but it's really restricted capital investment compared to what you see in healthcare in general. Like you need to buy a big multi-million-dollar machine, these type of things. We don't need to do this. The optometrists have the camera already installed in their office. We're just taking the images and analyzing them with the software that Diagnos has developed.
And from your viewpoint, what's the regulatory pathway / strategy been for Diagnos and the company as a whole? When you look at it from the perspective of kind of, being on the board as well as an investor.
Yeah, I would say we have a very defined strategy right now. First, we're going to address the Gulf state countries. A lot of news about them these days, obviously, but this will pass. There's a lot of diabetes in the Gulf, a lot of diabetic retinopathy, so obvious interest from the government authorities in that region of the world to get access to this type of technology. And we're reaching the final stages of certification with the equivalent, the Saudi equivalent of the FDA. So that's the first step. The second step, which has started already, is working with Health Canada to get the Health Canada certification, and also which has also started with the FDA. So we're working on 3 fronts. So after that, you can see that we'll have almost worldwide certification, because a lot of equivalence exists, with Europe and other parts of the world. That's a very important part of our work.
And obviously, with technology like this, the regulatory progress is not black or white, right? You'll submit, you get feedback, questions, and so it can take a little bit of time. But the ultimate goal really is to maintain the timelines that you have messaged publicly. Exactly. And with this technology, you can't really get paid, right, at all until you get regulatory approval. So obviously that's, as you start to get those approvals, that becomes a significant value de-risker, right, for investors.
And value creator as well, because then we can access much more patients, meaning much more revenue. And the cost, unit cost of this technology is very, very small. So there's no limit to the expansion of the number of cases you can look at. And of course, the bottom line results will follow accordingly.
Well, with that said, any final thoughts for long-term shareholders and potential new investors?
Well, I'd like to add maybe 2 things. The first one is that we have signed agreements with customers. And so that's important because, yes, we're developing the technology and it works. I mean, our technology is in production today, so it's not something that is far-fetched. So the development is almost, it's done. We're just finishing up the regulatory approvals, as Philippe said. But we have contracts with the largest group in Canada. We also signed a distribution agreement with the largest company in the world called EssilorLuxottica. The deal is very simple with them. We're going to train their salespeople, and they're going to go out and sell to their customers that are all optometrists. We're starting with Canada, and we're going to work our way into other countries as we grow. But you need, like you just said, we need to have regulatory approval to start billing. Without that, there is no billing. And so I can tell you in Canada, we've pre-installed 132 sites here with our customer, the New Look group. We have 40 somewhat sites that are sending us transactions every day. So, I mean, we've done probably over 70, 80,000 patients, and we're not allowed to bill them because if we get caught, well, Health Canada will shut the company down. So we're very, very, very disciplined in the approach with regulatory approval. Very important. But the neat thing about Canada, for example, is the day we have our regulatory approval, the next day we'll have 130 sites growing to 500 sites just with New Look. And then we're going to start training the Essilor salespeople, and they have another 5,000 sites they're going to go out and working with. So my closing message is really that the technology is developed. It works. We have signed deals in Canada and other parts of the world also. And really for long-term shareholders, it's an investment because we know what we're doing is going to be used for a long, long time by our customers. And I think our distributor, EssilorLuxottica, who did a review of the worldwide technologies that existed, picked Diagnos. So again, that's like kind of the second due diligence done by the largest company in the world. So, I'm very encouraged. I think investors that we have been longtime shareholders. And we've also mentioned publicly that in Q1, we think we're going to get our Saudi approval or finish at least the Saudi process, Q2 Canada, and Q3 the US. And we're sticking to what we said, 100%.
So, Andre, when you're thinking about, going to market strategy and building out really a commercial portion of this business, can you talk to us about what that channel strategy looks like? What does a successful optometrist practice with the integration of diagnosis technology look like, and how challenging is it to onboard a new optometrist? So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So our decision really to move forward from a sales and marketing perspective was we didn't want to hire 1,000 salespeople. So, the best way to grow sometimes is to have a partner program and use, the resources of somebody else that will get paid by the sale. But that's how you start growing instead of hiring 1,000 salespeople. So the channel that we were very fortunate to close with our partner EssilorLuxottica gives us that reach worldwide. It's not just a Canadian thing. We're going to start in Canada, but I think it's going to grow fairly quickly outside of Canada to all their different countries that they serve. I mean, EssilorLuxottica is a 25 billion euro company. They're in every country in the world, and their market is optometry. Now, a successful onboarding of an optometrist is pretty straightforward. I think optometrists today understand that assisted AI is a very big use in their future. The future of an optometrist will change in the next few years. I mean, today they work basically to give you a prescription to get your eyewear, but eventually that will disappear because there'll be a machine that you put your face in and you look at an image and you're going to have a prescription coming out. So the role of an optometrist will change in the future. And I believe that, the use of an optometrist in all these different kinds of diseases, such as diabetes, hypertension, and all that, will actually be very profitable for the optometry market and getting them closer to the medical market in terms of doctors and specialists. And they do believe that too. So our mesh in terms of strategy is in line right now. Now, for sure, EssilorLuxottica is a big piece in our life because they control 50% of the market worldwide. So that's 500,000 sites, and probably a million optometrists and eye doctors. So the idea for us, our key performance indicators, is to make sure that we sign up more and more optometrists, and we also monitor the optometrists. So we have a real-time system to actually review how many transactions are done on a minute basis. So if a site goes down in terms of transaction, we call them to see what's, do they need more training, or has there been changes in the organization? There's a lot of changes in the very small sites, like the single site, where they have one or two optometrists. So some of them will leave for other competitors and so forth. So we track them and we react to them, and we want to be, in terms of support, very present with them. So key performance indicators are number of optometrists we sign, number of patients per optometrist that we monitor, and on the channel side is how can we help all these salespeople at EssilorLuxottica do a better job with their customers. Now, we don't interact with their customers. We will interact with EssilorLuxottica, but we will make sure that the training and support for the salespeople is there.
So, talk a little bit about onboarding a new optometrist. Like, is that a very challenging process? Do they need to buy new equipment, or can they work with Luxottica to get up and running very quickly? Like, what does that friction look like?
Yeah, good question. So basically, we decided to go, like I said, on the assisted AI, and we decided not to use automated AI because you had to change the camera that you had. So some of our competitors on the medical side, not on the optometry side, if you join their service, the first thing you got to do is buy a brand new camera, even though you have one. So, and these are about $40,000, and also the training process is very long. In our case, we just come in and it takes no more than 10, 15 minutes to train a site because we don't change their equipment, we don't change their processes. We just explain them what's going to happen when patient gets to this fundus camera, and then the images is taken, shipped to our server back, and we ship it back, integrated in a report. So we install a small piece of software on the laptop that controls the camera. That takes a few seconds to put together. There's no training on that piece of software. This is just a piece of software that will grab the image, ship it to us, and we ship it back. So it's a very, very small piece of software. The actual training with the technician takes less than 5 minutes because the technician knows how to take the image. And then when the image is taken, it's shipped up to our network and back down. So, worst case, 15 minutes, but, in average, it takes between 10 and 15 minutes to train a site. It's all done at distance. So there's no visit to the site and so forth. It's all done on video conference, and it works very well. Like I said, we've actually pre-installed 132 sites in Canada, and like we gave permissions to 43 sites to use the platform because we want to make sure that we could make some statistics about optometrists using our platform. So and 43 site was enough. That's over 200 optometrists every day sending us information.
And so this is all done in the cloud, right? There's nothing besides uploading software that needs to be installed on the computer at the optometrist's office.
Yeah, there's no hardware to buy, no software to buy. We don't force the optometrist to sign a license fee with a quantity of tests before. We're there to help them. If they give me 7 tests per day, I'm very happy, okay, per optometrist. And they're $5 a piece. So a test is $5. It's not a huge sum inside the pre-test charges or billing that they do to their patient. So everything is collectively all integrated, and there's no work to be done on the site. I can tell you from the sites we've installed, we've learned a lot, okay? The first 10 sites was a bit challenging, but then it got easier and easier and easier, and today it's very easy. But also, you have to remember that, AI was when it started about 4.5 years ago, was a big hype. And then it was a big descent like this when everybody saw regenerative AI trying to, imitate your face, your voice. We don't use those regenerative AI algorithms. We use traditional AI algorithms that we train to look at very specific things on the images. So that is a big plus also for the optometrists because they're not afraid of the software that we have compared to the regenerative environment. So 10, 15 minutes installation, no hardware cost, no software cost to install and all that. They just pay per use.
So a new site could be up and running in 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
So moving along to kind of thinking about the next catalyst for Diagnos, coming up in 2026, what are kind of the key regulatory gates and timelines that we should be thinking about, and how does that connect to your commercial planning? So, you kind of go live day or date.
Yeah. Well, the challenge here is really regulatory approval. I mean, the pathway are fairly clear. The problem with regulatory approval is the governments now, people might have forgot, but COVID really did not help in the process with governments and all that. So Health Canada, FDA, and Saudi FDA, I mean, they're government people. They're not stressed with time. I mean, it'll take the time it has to. So we are very patient with. You have to be patient with the regulatory approvals. The good thing is that we started this more than a year ago, so we've done a year of work and work with the three regulatory approvals that we're looking for now in the short term. And I said since the beginning, Q1, for us is Saudi, Q2 Canada, and Q3 USA. And we have finished providing all the information to the Saudi government. We are at their ethics committee, but we have no date because they don't tell us. But we're very close, I think, in terms of getting there. Canada, same thing. We've had many meetings finally with them, so we know what we have to do. So they provided us with a list of things that they think our software is too powerful. It should be a diagnostic software, and we're not. We're really a screening process or an assistant to an optometrist, quite different from a diagnostic tool. So we are in the process of changing our software, redocumenting everything, and we will provide them with what they want. Once we provide them with what they want in Q2, we'll be on top of them to see, what they're going to do. The US FDA, same thing. I mean, we know what we have to do, and we're working on it. The neat thing about the more regulatory governments you do, the documentation they want, because the 90% of the solution for regulatory is documentation. But now we have a lot of documentation because we did it, twice now, and then the third time with the US FDA will be easier because we've done all the documentation that's required. And we've also changed the software to adapt to make sure it's not seen as a diagnostic tool, but more as an assistant tool for the people that are going to use it, such as optometrists.
So you're sticking to those publicly stated timelines for regulatory milestones, right?
Absolutely. We've been telling people for the last 3 or 4 months that was our goal, and I think we're going to hit the goal. And if we miss, we won't miss by much. That's what I believe.
And that's kind of out of your hand, right? You can't control.
But, we can't control anything. So we have to go. Yeah, we have to go with the flow. But now I think we've done a year now in terms of working with this. So we're not starting the process. We're really in the process, and those things are pending. So that's the good news.
That's fantastic to hear. And once you guys get that approval, that means you can go live and start billing, which is great.
Oh, yes.
Shifting to kind of, running the business, talk to us a little bit about, how much capital you've raised recently. How much of a runway does that give you? Is it the next 6 months, the 12 months? What does that get you to?
That's a good question. So we just did a raise in December, and we raised, $4 million, but there's probably like 3.5 million, net because of all kinds of commissions and stuff like that.
Now, is this Canadian dollars or US dollars?
Canadian dollars. Okay. And we believe that that's enough money to get us through our regulatory processes, the three of them. Okay. For sure that our second approval will be Health Canada. Well, the next day, like I said, next day that we have that, we can start, billing within 30 days because, we bill every 30 days. And we'll train the Essilor folks within 30 days. They'll be up and running. So that will be a big point for us. In Saudi, it's really it's really working with the government. Their business processes are not the same as in Canada or the US. I mean, optometry stores, they have a few, but they're really more connected to hospitals and clinics over there. So we've been there for 7-8 years. We know them, they know us. And I think once we have the regulatory approval, you're going to see the hospitals and clinics using it. But we can't put a timeline yet on that because what's happening right now in the Gulf is a little bit sensitive to put out any specific news on that. But I can tell you on a daily basis, the Saudi FDA is responding to us every 48 hours. So, and this conflict will probably finish at one point, and things will be all normal again.
That's right. Now, is it fair to say you guys have at least 12 months of runway with the recent capital raise in December?
Yeah, when 12 months from when we raised it, yes. From December to December, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So we've had a couple of questions come in during this broadcast. I'd love to jump into a Q&A and answer some of these questions if you don't mind, Andre.
Go.
So when you're thinking about commercialization of this technology, at a high level, can you just talk to us about the economics, the gross margins, especially as volume starts to increase, and what does that look like in terms of your partnerships in Canada, USA, and Saudi Arabia?
Well, I mean, we are selling our tests, and we'll have 6 tests at the end of the year available. Right now, we're going for 4 tests with Health Canada and the US FDA and Saudi. The price per test at $5 is not very expensive. So, we're not a burden in terms of cost. The cost to run the test is about 40 cents, and the revenue is 5. So the margins are very big. And actually, it's better than that because when we do an analysis, we actually analyze the 4 different tests, but we sell the ones that they ask. So if the optometrist says, I just want the test on the hypertension, well, we've already run the 4 tests anyway because it's from a CPU and software perspective, it'll take, X number of seconds. So, we decided to build that so it's very fast. So if sometimes you can see an optometrist asking for one test and then 2 minutes after he wants another one. So instead of, and the neat thing is one picture, we can do the 4 tests that we have right now in regulatory.
So 40 cents to run 4 tests.
Yes.
And revenue could be anywhere from $5 to $20.
That's it. And so the margins are good, the profit is good, and I think the adoption is very very important because adoption is really the end game here. So from I'd say the 200 to 300 optometrists in Canada we've trained, the adoption is very good. I think we get a 99% adoption rate. So the young generation of optometrists, they jump on it. They want it. The older ones, they're at the end of their career. It's a little bit more difficult for them to digest artificial intelligence. So, excuse me, but they were very supportive.
So talk to me a little about the relationship with New Look and Luxottica. What are the incentives there for them to really help sales grow for Diagnos, right? And utilization grow. What is the incentive for them?
Well, the two are different. New Look, we started with New Look as our first customer. And the chief medical officer was very, very keen about AI. He was one of these optometrists that knows that the world is changing, and if you don't get on the train now, you'll be trying to catch up on the train, and it's very difficult. So they were very supportive at the very high level of management, including the CEO. So it was easier to get going. The structure at New Look is simple. You have a CEO, you have 3 or 4 vice presidents of different regions. Every single member of the management team were all on board, 100%. They also saw that they can actually do things that they cannot do today. For example, they want to look at hypertension, but to do an AVR test, so an artery-vein ratio, so the thickness of the arteries and vein, it's almost impossible to do. They can't do it, but they want it because it actually has a very key impact on the patient's health. So they were very, very supportive and pushing us to go faster and faster and faster. So they want the technology. EssilorLuxottica, they're looking more as a global player. Excuse me. They're looking at how can they increase their revenues from a mass worldwide. They've done all the acquisitions they can. They used to be 13 billion euro. They bought another company. They became 25 billion euro. There's no other companies to buy. I mean, their competitors are not for sale from what we know, but they own 50% of the market. So the idea is how can they grow internally by adding applications such as Diagnos? So increasing the number of patients coming into their stores. So if they can bring the patient because he's diabetic or suffers from hypertension or he has AMD, well, that gives them a chance, 60% chance that they will buy their eyewear in the store. So the more people you bring to them, the more revenue they will do. Different from a New Look that want to do a better job with their patient. Okay, they also want to make money, but it's a different approach.
So for New Look, how are they making money in partnership with Diagnos? Do they own the store and they can charge $6 a test and give you $5, or how does that work for New Look versus how does that work for Luxottica? Can they do something similar where they charge $6 and they give you $5? And can you talk a little bit about those economics?
Well, New Look, we charge them $5 per test, and they have the option to either uplift a little bit, or they use it because of the reporting that we do. So a lot of optometrists understands that the $5 is irrelevant at the end of the day. If they can do a better job monitoring the patient who has disease and glaucoma, AMD, and so forth, I mean, they look much better as a medical doctor, maybe. Okay, so they have the choice. So most of the sites do not uplift the $5. So what they do is they put the $5 in the pre-test fee. So the pre-test fee is a fee when you get your an eye test. They'll charge anywhere between $100 up to although $170. So they put the $5 in there. Or they might say, okay, instead of $130, we'll charge $135. But they're not trying to make money with it. At the beginning, it was quite different because they were actually thinking, oh, we can sell this, but they quickly saw the benefit for them as a eye doctor, and it changed the whole game. So perception is everything. So in their mind, they're saying, well, we want this, and we don't want to charge a fee to the patient unless we can, but we'll charge the basic fee that we charge. EssilorLuxottica, we charge them $5 per test. They have the same option. They can increase it by $2 or $3. So this way they pay their commission to their salespeople and all that. But the end game is to bring more people in their store, right? So they're seeing the technology a lot differently than what they did at the beginning a year ago. Okay, so the impact is very positive for us because we don't play with our margins. I mean, there's still going to be $5 tests, and like I said, we're just looking for really about 7 tests per day per optometrist. When they see 20 to 30 patients, we're not really aggressive in terms of, but if you count 1 million optometrists out there and they give me 7 tests per day at $5, you're looking at $35 million a day.
So,
What?
right. And so, from an infrastructure perspective, let's say you do get the regulatory approvals. Let's say you can go live the very next day. Does Diagnose need to do anything on the back end to scale their infrastructure in terms of servers or, data or anything like that? Or are you guys ready to? Can you do 5,000 tests a day? Can you do 20,000? What does that look like?
Yeah, today we're good to do at least, let's say, 5 to 6,000 tests a day. Okay. We're moving to the cloud. So the day we move to the cloud is when we're going to need more CPU. So our goal really is to go to the cloud and use, the services from all these different cloud vendors. After the COVID, prices of cloud fees were like just ridiculously high, but they've been coming down since. Now they want the business. So for us now, it would be like putting a CPU per optometrist in the cloud. Okay. And we've already planned all of that. So our planning is all done. Our testing is done. But we're going to use our own servers until we see that it'll make more business sense to go to the cloud. We have services in Saudi Arabia already with Saudi Telecom, in Canada with our providers. In the US, we already have certain customers there, so we use local services from the providers there. It's not as complicated as it used to be, because really it's just an image that goes into the cloud to the server and comes back. So the actual CPU time to analyze an image is about 10, 15 milliseconds. So that's very fast. We don't need GPUs. We need just CPUs. Okay. GPUs is really done when you do the development. But once it's developed, it's really just a normal CPU environment like anybody else. And the transactions are very small. An image is not very big, not very large. And the report is just a 3-page report. It's just like nothing.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming patient data is confidential, it's secure, it's encrypted, and all that good stuff.
So the legal side of that is changing. For example, in Quebec, you're not allowed to keep the data anymore. So there's laws that have been passed. It's going to be the same across Canada. So what we do is we have the transaction. We keep the result for 48 hours, and then we delete it. Now, all our customers already have an EMR system, an electronic medical record system, in their stores. So we give them 48 hours just in case something would happen, but it's really not needed. But we do that. We're allowed to do it by law. So, but all the images and the results are sent back to the optometrist. We don't need more data right now. We have enough data for what we do. When you have 500,000 patients' data, that's a lot, So we're fine in that perspective, and a lot of the sites they'll actually get disclosures signed with their customers, because sometimes the customers are more intelligent right now about or more afraid about AI, and a lot of the optometrists won't talk about AI anymore. They talk about having an expert system. If they say AI, well, the patient sometimes will say, okay, I want to sign a paper that you're not sending this information to other people. But it goes very far, because some patient thinks that when you take a picture of the eye, you're actually taking a picture of the brain, and you're not. So you're not collecting data that the patient owns himself. It's just the image, just a picture. So, but we've covered all of these things with all these different sites we have installed today. So we're ready to go. We're ready to go. So we need to close these regulatory approvals and go.
Thank you. So any last words in the closing seconds?
Well, no, I mean, I think, the system is in production. It runs very well. We have customers. We have other customers that we haven't talked about in the world. I think the timing is good. I think AI is here to stay. It's not going to go away. It's going to stay here. It might change name. It might not be called AI at one point. We call it expert systems with the customers at New Look. But we're ready to go. I think we got great support. We have a great board. We have visionaries on our board that are medically oriented, such as Philip. So, I believe that we're at the right place at the right time right now.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank our viewers for joining this webinar on Diagnos as they try their best to turn routine eye exams into scalable disease detection. I'm sure Andre and the team appreciate the continued support of their long-term shareholders. And as always, we welcome new investors to the Diagnos story. If you want to learn more, please reach out. If you missed this webinar, it's going to be available for replay on YouTube and LinkedIn. And we've got some exciting things coming in the coming months. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Sid.
Thanks.
Thank you, Philip.